Speaking of wins in courts, here's another one. Texas win. Appeals court allows law authorizing arrest of illegals to take effect, barring Supreme Court intervention. So Texas is doing the work. And I do wonder, is Texas just trying to make Trump less necessary? Is this man here sacrificing his belief that the US should have open borders in order to prevent Trump getting elected by stealing his campaign promises? So yeah, is he in fact trying to just steal Trump's issues to prevent Trump getting elected? Is he a rhino? I don't know. I expect Trump would think so, but no, I suspect not. But he is taking up Trump's issues, but that's because they're important, I think. I think even he recognizes it. And I've heard some bad things about him in the past, or I've heard people say bad things about him, but he seems to be doing just fine now. I don't know if there's some greater motive at play, but either way, what he's doing is good. Greg Abbott is a normie turned red pill, says John Wick. That's a hopeful perspective, and I hope that's right. The field says Abbott is demonstrating Trump's policies work in contrast to Arizona, New Mexico, and California. Just allow CBP to continue not doing their jobs. And Texas is the place to do that. Like, I don't know the numbers exactly, but I think those other three states have a much, much smaller issue on the border than Texas does. Another Cruz, perhaps Matthias. I suspect with Cruz that Cruz was actually more base than he was pretending to be, and he was just playing along with, well, this is what GOP nominees do. I can't, show my power level, which in his case was not that high, but it was higher than the average rhino at the time. So he wanted someone like Trump to come along. Or he didn't know that Trump was the guy to do it until he started doing it, until he started demonstrating that it was actually viable. So Ted Cruz and to some extent Marco Rubio as well, I think were more based than they appeared during the 2016 campaign. They were playing into what they thought was the way to get elected, under the assumption, like everyone else, that Trump was completely unelectable. Once he got elected, they maybe were dubious for a little while, but then noticed actually he's doing some good things. I like what this guy's doing. And then Ted Cruz grew a beard and became punished Cruz. But he learned that he was free, finally, to be as base as he had wanted to be in the first place. So I don't know. It would be hard to tell. Hard to tell because he would have been, his public persona would have been crafted to become president. The beard growth was an important part of his journey. I agree, Matthias. Kitty says Ted Cruz is one of the good lizards. Maybe. On Thursday, says Red State, we brought you news of a federal district court ruling out of Texas that blocked the state's recently enacted law, Senate Bill 4, which allowed state law enforcement officers to arrest and detain those suspected of entering the country illegally. Why the hell would that be? Why the hell would that be in question? Of course you arrest and detain them. In his ruling, Judge David Ezra held that the provision was an improper attempt by Texas to supersede federal law. I don't think so. It's not only a crime, I think it's a felony. The state has a responsibility to arrest people that have committed crimes, right? Surely. Monday, in addition to the blockbuster ruling out of the US Supreme Court regarding the Colorado ballot case involving former President Donald Trump, comes big news out of the Fifth Circuit regarding the aforementioned Texas law. Federal appeals court allows Texas immigration law to take effect. Law enforcement officers in Texas are now authorized to arrest and jail any illegal immigrants crossing the border. Good. I'm shocked that wasn't already the policy. The appellate court has now placed a stay on the Supreme Court ruling, though it has put its own ruling on hold for 7 days to allow the Biden admin time to appeal the case to the Supreme Court. So I'm guessing that after those 7 days, they can enforce the policy. I don't know that for sure, but so. Meatball says Trump rebranded the movement known as the Tea Party and ran away with it. If so, then so be it. But perhaps you're right. The district ruling was regarded because it would be a precedent that says a state can't arrest for any federal crime. Indeed, Solomon. It's remarkable that anyone doubted that this was justified. A federal appeals court granted a temporary stay of lower court's decision to block the enforcement of a controversial Texas immigration law, paving the way for it to go into effect this week if the Supreme Court doesn't intervene. So essentially, I think they have a week to intervene. Last week, a federal judge in Austin, Texas, blocked the state government from implementing Senate Bill 4, which would allow state law enforcement authorities to arrest and detain people they suspect of entering the country illegally. Which again it's ridiculous that would be in question. Judge David Allen Ezra wrote in his Thursday decision to halt the law that if allowed to proceed, SB 4 could open the door to each state passing its own version of immigration laws. Why, though, does there need to be a law for this? It's already a law, surely. Can't Abbott just do it and say they're criminals? But it's a weird, funny name that judge has. Texas appealed the ruling, with Republican Governor Greg Abbott saying, "We will not back down in our fight to protect our state and our nation from President Biden's border crisis." Like, okay, I can see if the judge is saying that they shouldn't have their own special, unique one. That's just improperly organized. But he should have also said, you don't need to do this. You can already enforce this law. You can already arrest them. Now, is there some reason that Texas is not, in fact, allowed to arrest illegal immigrants? Because this is, even with what I know about how bad the situation is, it's still baffling to me that it would need a law for Texas to be able to arrest illegal immigrants. Maybe it's a matter of, like, the federal law on it is just so, like, confounded with red tape that Texas wants to implement its own version just to get rid of that and make it simple. If that's so, let them do it. Even if it is the wrong way to organize it, because the situation is that bad. And on the matter of the border is not just a federal issue. It's a federal issue first, but if the federal government aren't doing it properly, it should fall to the state to do it properly. Texas appealed the ruling. Over the weekend, the Fifth U.S. Court of Appeals granted a stay of Ezra's decision to put its ruling on hold for 7 days, allowing time for the Biden admin to go into the Supreme Court. The law remains blocked only until March 9th, unless the Supreme Court keeps it on hold. It was originally set to go into effect March 5th. Sanctuary cities and states are already state clause that countermand federal law anyway. You mean state laws. The C is in a spacebar. Yes, that's a good point. That's a lot of moving procedural parts of who it is in a nutshell. I think I get it, but say I'm not quite that dense. Okay, yeah, so that's the end of the article. Good news, but I'm surprised it has to be done in the first place.